Easy E, how are we?
Enough about me. You did another stupid thing on the weekend.
You know what? When I talked about last week's stupid thing, I did the backyard ultra up in Forest Court. I talked last week about doing the 20K beforehand and doing the loops around Leakstip. Even talking to the guys doing loops, they're like, why? Why'd you do that? And a lot of them did a lot more loops than I did this weekend. They're like, that was just stupid, Sean. What are you up to?
How was it? How bad was the body, or how was it feeling?
Well, I was feeling nervous after the league slip, and then I got the call on Friday. Well, no, Neve got the call Friday. It's like, great news. You can move into your house. And she's like, this is not great news because we're going up to fucking north the next day because Sean's doing this race. I was like, oh, straight into the doghouse. So between that and the race, I wasn't looking forward till I got there. And then I saw all the guys from Team Elevation and stuff, and there was a bit of crack. And some people were like geared up to go for a long, long time, and other people had done mad races leading up to it. And they're like, oh, if I get 10, 12 hours, I'll be happy. And I was like, oh, okay, people got different expectations on this one. So 94 people did it. And the setup is class. Florence Court is beautiful, but the great thing about it is like the car parks is like literally at the start line. So like I literally had to walk 10 feet from where we were all based for Team Munster to the start line on each track. So it was great. Not as hilly as some of the other backyard ultras. So rolling hills, stuff like that, a lot of gravel. But I kind of find the hills are good for that because it teaches you to walk this part, not go too fast. So even though it wasn't as challenging as other courses, I was still getting in 50, 52 minutes and seeing how I was. And I knew I'd hit a wall sometime around 6 hours, which I did again, 6, 7 hours. And I came in and there's a few people there, and I was like, how are we getting on? Has anyone dropped yet? And man's like, yeah, no one's dropped yet. I'm like, Jesus, great. Team Munster's doing well. And he goes, no, Sean, nobody has dropped yet. 94 people, 7 hours in. We passed the marathon
like, oh
mark.
no, I planned on dropping on the 8 hour.
I had thought about it. I was like, I can't be the first. So like I was like, there's no way I'm gonna be the first one to go. It just can't happen. So whatever about just doing 8 and leaving, couldn't do it. Because most of these I've done before. I've had people drop from 3 hours, hit the half marathon mark, and 6, 7 hours you pass the marathon mark. 8 is past 50K, I think. And you're like, this is when people start dropping. And like after 8, no one had dropped. I'm like, okay. Luckily, this because of my third one, I was smart. So like little rewards each round, whether it was the little bit of the other mint coming back or the massage gun or change of socks or one lap that I felt a bit dehydrated. I had a can of Coke and I felt the buzz again. I was feeling great. And then, just kept on going until nightfall. I had a big Batman signal on me there because I couldn't find my charger for the normal running thing. So everyone had the small little lights.
I've seen the light. You look like one of the minions going mining.
I looked like the tonight we're gonna steal the moon. The big moon on my head. Didn't care though. It was great. I could see everything.
Everyone could see everything. Like the bat signal. Jesus Christ.
I did a Batman journal. But yeah, no, just kept going and got to towards lap 12. And the body was actually feeling okay. On my lap 12, I was like, right, what did I come here to do? It was like 12 laps. I'm not injured. I could feel little niggles from like 6 and 7. Like it was taking me, like get up off the chair, a little pain in the hip, but nothing bad. And I was just like, I came to do 12 loops. I've gotten 12 loops. I'm not injured. And at that stage, people were starting to drop. And you could see it was like a few were like trying to get to 12. And there was a lot there that were going 24 plus. I was like, Sean, are you going 24 today? And I was like, no, I'm not going 24. It's not in me. This is probably one of the very first times in 223 episodes I was reasonably smart about it. I was like, I know 24 is not in me. I haven't done the running to then. If I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to do something stupid. I'm going to get injured. Now, I'm not saying I could have got 24. Like it's, with backyard ultras, the next loop, the stomach could have been at me more, or different things can happen. You get an injury, you turn on your ankle, whatever it is, like especially terrain throughout the night, you get really tired. So there's many different things like that could have went wrong. But I felt good for another couple of hours. And I was like, no, 12 hours. I'm done. I'm happy out. I'm going to call it there. Going to focus on the Dublin Marathon and High Rocks and try and get back training this week. So It was the best I have ever felt after doing 80K. Within Neve was so shocked that I was helping her doing the packing up of stuff. Usually I'm in the corner shivering or so just in bits. I can't move. You see me last year in Dublin, rattled, couldn't move, packing all my stuff for me. But I was packing the stuff into the truck. A mile down the road was our B&B. Good shower, in the bed. Obviously not great sleep because there was still a lot of running. So, the restless legs, stuff like that. And then and then after that, got around 6-7 hours sleep. Drove home from Enniskillen, well, she drove. 6-7 hours cleaning the house for the new house and all the rest. Have a look at Facebook. The guys and girls are still running. They're on lap 32. God. 8 of them left. Shout out to Wayne McGuigan, who is on Team Elevation, Team Munster. Sammy as well, which I don't his Instagram is I can't remember exactly what his Instagram is. I was talking about it before the start of the race. He's still at it. And those guys are going out there for, I'd say some of them are going to be there for 40 hours. So it's been 20 hours since I finished the race. They're still going. They could still be going by the time this podcast drops in the morning. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's you see someone, they're just gliding along. And even on they show on Atlas Running, they show a live feed of each lap, and they're just, some of them just still look like they could go for a good while longer. It's an insane sport, and the endurance and the times and the distance is getting so much better. Like, I didn't even touch on what the guys were doing in Leaks Up last week. I forget her name, from the Wexford Festival. She got like 221 kilometers or something like that, just doing loops at Wexford the week before. You would have loved that, actually. They had the flyover. 4 or 5 planes flying over the same time because the Bray Air Festival was on. I was like, there's Eric Lawless. Almost bang on the button. I'm like, I'm never going to have a better start to a race than this. But a guy there got 250 plus kilometers as well doing that one. I think they're approaching 215 now in 32 hours. And they'll probably get a lot more. So it's the level that people can go now in this country in endurance is phenomenal. Like, I know the hills and stuff are harder last year, but like that was 26, 27, 28 loops, 30 odd now and still going, and God knows how far they get to.
Look, I can't even get my head around it, like this 8 minutes sleep and, and a snack and getting going again, if even. It's just crazy.
It's heart rate training. You'd love it. I had my mind on me. I barely hit the 60+% of my heart rate, so the heart was grand. It's just the legs and just mindset when you're in it's different.
Yeah, and especially when it gets to nightfall. So I've been with you for your first night, and it was just like, get through the night, and that's when the wheels start to come off the wagon. Imagine getting to your second night and going, just get through the night, get to your third night. No, pack it in. I just pick a ditch and jump into it. That'll be the end of it for me.
Well, that's what they need to do. Like, so for the big world championships in Tennessee, it's looking like you would probably need 75 hours to get into something like that. Have that in your record. And all these are qualifiers for, like, not qualifiers, but like they go to your
sets
record.
The bar. Yeah, no,
sets
it
the
is.
bar, yeah. So if someone gets like 75 or something like that, and they're the Irish person, they could be the Irish representative then for that next year. Is every year, every second year? I'm not too sure. I wouldn't mind, but Dara, who's down there, was telling me about it. But it's just mad. Like, even someone, for example, shout out to Dara. A couple of weeks ago, he's doing coast to coast, 500 kilometers, and then a month before that, he's hitting nearly 180 kilometers in the Wexford Running Festival, and all these events are getting bigger and more popular. And we've got the Seven Sisters coming up, we've got the Kerry Ultra Wave, we've got the Eco Trail, and it's like you have to be very selective now of your races, unless like Sean Meaton from the other week of the podcast just being like, I just do them all and see what happens.
Look, but it is, and it's one I think you were clever with, because you have selected your races, and that's one thing you said that was smart. It was picking what the goals are for the year, and it's something like and a lot of our guests have said, when the gun goes, then you're at the start line. It's very difficult to say, I'll just do 1 lap, I'll just do 2 laps. All of a sudden, when you're in the race, it's like, oh no, I have to keep going. I'm not going to be the first one to drop. But yeah, it was clever. I'm surprised you stopped. You said we had a chat off air 2 weeks ago, and I was like, don't be an idiot. Don't do what we normally do. And you were like, no, I won't. But when no people dropped at 8 hours, I was like, when I seen on your Instagram lap 10, I was like, fucking idiot.
I felt great. I couldn't believe I was like, even afterwards, Neve's like, you're definitely all right. Like, how many pain pills did you pop? Like, no, I'm actually grand. No issues at all here. It's, yeah, I want faster Dublin. I hate the intervals. I've gotten really slow, and I got the 100 mile in May, and I don't feel like I will do ultras again. I'll do backyards again, and 24 doing a backyard will be a future goal. But once I got that in May and I wasn't able to run for 5, 6 weeks, I was like, what are we doing here? The same, because I haven't done much mileage since, had I pushed myself to try and get towards that. And look, like I said, I've felt before great doing 12 hours and got into 15 and then, couldn't walk for 2 days. But with everything else going on, I'd rather start training this week, try and get towards Dublin, try and get those faster 5 and 10Ks down, and just see how it goes from there. Because I didn't really get Dublin a good go last year, and I'd like to get close to a 3:30 again.
Accusations being thrown out here now. We're gonna have to hold you to that. That's a good
move
one.
on to this week's guest.
This week's guest, Sean. You better move on quick. Who have we got?
This week's guest of the podcast, speaking of previous failures and stuff, this week's guest remind me a lot of mine, not just in terms of how bad I've been in different races and how useless I am swimming, but also in terms of the engineering world, because I tried that for a year or two, and I give you a bit of grief for the side of the podcast, which you got back at me plenty of times throughout the course of the podcast. A little bit harsh, I thought, from time to time. But
if you're going to come at the king, you better not miss, Sean.
I missed. We have a phenomenal guest this week that's getting into triathlons. As of this week, you listen to the podcast, she is racing her first full in Sweden, her first full Ironman. But in terms of halves and duathlons and all the rest, she's done an absolute lot. I'm really looking forward to people listening to this one.
Yeah, this one's a great one. And again, it's that mixture of endurance sports, and we cover a lot of different, but this one adds in a good bit of the science behind some of the kit behind. Very talented young athlete, and quite a young athlete with a long triathlon career, particularly in the middle distance ahead. A great episode to listen, and probably enough now on a Monday morning of us slagging each other, and it's best time we kick into this week's episode.
Let's go. So I'm used to seeing parallels between ourselves and our guests on the Any Given Runday podcast, apart from them excelling a lot more. For example, our next guest in the podcast has age group victories in TriAthy Olympic, last year's Cork Ironman, and a podium finish at Triathlon Ireland National Series. Except there's also parallels in their college journeys, apart from the fact that I'm a failed engineer. Eric, you barely got by in your engineer.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, you scraped by. You scraped by.
Piece of paper.
I was with you through that. You got a lot of help with that. But getting back to our guest, however, where's my notes? She is, I can barely pronounce it, an aeronautical engineer, and is putting that degree to good use by working with Coup Cycle Engineering to help revolutionize the bike industry, as well as being a phenomenal athlete. Mary O'Donnell, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks so much. That's a lovely intro.
Hold on a minute. I am an engineer. I got the degree. You didn't. Don't be taking that out on me.
I said failed. You barely got it. You scraped by.
What do you call the doctor that finished last? Doctor. Thank you, Sean. I'm an engineer.
You don't trust Mary, that doctor. You don't want that doctor.
Mary, it's go ahead. So lovely to have a fellow engineer on the podcast. It's so nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks so much for inviting me. It really is an honor.
So let's get into triathlon. How long are you doing triathlons?
So I've been doing triathlon for 3 years. I did my first triathlon in July of 2021. So I was originally a competitive swimmer. I swam with my club in Fermoy for about 20 years, whether that was just doing lessons, going up through the stages, and then competitive swimming. I swam all the way up to my leaving cert. I did my last session at 5 o'clock in the morning before my applied maths exam, and then went straight into it.
Oh my God.
And then, of course, going to UL, the sports hub as a university in Ireland.
Good.
It was just perfect for me.
It is so good.
I remember going training the pool, and I was like, I definitely want to be here. Like, this is just where I want to be. And then, I joined the university swimming team. And then, of course, COVID happened, and all the pools shut. So I had to do something else. So I decided I'd start running. So I trained for my first marathon in 2021 after telling myself I'd never run more than a 5K. Did that. And
We've
then I
all done
said,
that.
and then I said, look, I can swim and I can run. I'll just throw the bike in as well. And yeah, started my triathlon journey in 21. Realized that I hate sprints. I hate sprinting. So I just went straight into my first half. Then I trained for that in 22. So yeah, that's kind of it then. And just have been enjoying the process, enjoying the training, enjoying the racing. And I'm now just over 2 weeks away from my first full Ironman in Sweden. So big mileage being put in right now.
It's amazing when you look at the swimming. It's one thing that I did swimming lessons up until I was about 6. I wasn't even great when I stopped. Then soccer took over and the conflict of time. So soccer always won instead of swimming. But when I one went on holidays or two went to try and do a triathlon, I was always really, really envious of those who had been swimming since they were young, through their teens, and they're graceful they look in the water. Does it make a big difference for you knowing that? Because a lot of people in triathlon, the scariest part is the water. Like that is if I get out of the water, the day is done. I'm on the pig's
Yeah.
back. Is it nice for you knowing you have it? That experience, that 10,000 hours, or do you find there's extra pressure to perform?
I definitely find that it is an advantage, especially since like I only started properly running and cycling only 3 years ago, especially in the longer distances as well. I do find that I can make up a lot of time, and it's nice to have that kind of comfort. I do a bit of swim coaching myself, and it's such a technical sport. Like you could say to anyone, okay, yeah, go out for a run, go out for a bike ride, that kind of comes a lot more naturally than people being put horizontal in the water and having that technique. You build up such a flexibility and like a feel for the water. I found what I put myself mostly under pressure is when I'm doing my own sessions. If I'm going for like a time trial session in the pool, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know I'm going to be swimming. And like literally as soon as I finish the warm up, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do like another kilometer warm up. I don't want to do this session at all because I'm like, okay, I know what times. It's even worse because I know what times I used to do. And I'm like, oh, can I get those times again? And I used to be a back crawler as well. I was 50, 100, 200 meter back crawler. So like front crawl wasn't my forte. When I joined like the university swimming squad as well, and then I kind of started doing triathlon, I of course like deviated more towards front crawl, but I always go back and do 200 back crawl for our varsity competition, and it is literally the hardest 200 meters of the entire year that I psych myself up for entirely because I'm like, this is my stroke. I know I should be good at this, but like all the technique for that is definitely gone. It's all just front crawl now.
Yeah.
When
you
you
look
still
at the
do
likes
okay.
of, get out of here, Sean. You're not an
Oh
engineer.
my god, that's swimming. I don't know swimming
you,
engineer. I'm gone.
We're talking technical. You wouldn't understand. You started this. When you look at the likes of the talent that comes through in the swimming, and obviously UL is known for its sport and its swimming. A little bit unfortunate that COVID happened at the time. Do you feel like you missed out on a little bit of that extra push in terms of your swimming career? Did COVID kind of bring that to a close, or what happened there?
So my swimming journey and like my sports journey, when I went into secondary school, I like really put my heart and soul into swimming. Like I remember I used to come home from like swimming training and I'd almost be crying because I just loved swimming so much. And I always thought I was going to be an Olympian. I really believed I was like, okay, I'm going to put the work in. And I was really, really dedicated. And we were a small club as well. But I was like, no, like this is a massive dream for me. And then of course, when I kind of thought about going to UL, I was like, I definitely want to be a high performance swimmer. Unfortunately, I went through a really difficult phase during secondary school, which kind of put my sporting dreams to a halt. So I went through about 4 or 5 years of an eating disorder. And at that age, when you're 14, 15, 16, you really need to be peaking at swimming at that stage. And like, I definitely fell off understandably. I was lucky then though to come back and went back training then and almost reached the highest potential I thought I could ever reach in swimming in sixth year. But of course I did miss off on those kind of like fundamental years, I think, for swimming. So joined the university team. I mean, like that was always good, but like I was far off from high performance at that stage. And it just, you kind of need to kind of need to know where you are if you're going to be going into university and swimming for a high performance club. If you're going into like the likes of Dublin for the national centre, or if you're going to Limerick for the national centre, you kind of know when you're getting in and you kind of know when you're not going to get in.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in these kind of sports, timings, the clock is your biggest enemy, and it's black and it's white, and it's unfortunately it can be difficult. Recovering from the likes of the eating disorders, getting yourself back into sport. Do you find sport is a nice outlet for you as a coping mechanism now? Has it helped you in your transition back into university life, and then finding sport again, and obviously, you're doing Ironman, you're training, you're fit, you're healthy. Obviously, your nutrition is an important element of your life now. How is that for you now?
So I like when I was kind of going through it, I was like, I always just want to go back to swimming. Swimming was identity is a really big thing to me. I like to know who I am. I like to know what I fit into. And being a swimmer was a massive identity, of course, to me, or being athletic was always big identity to me. So yeah, when I was kind of going through that, I kind of completely lost my identity. I was like, who am I if I'm not a sports person, if I'm not a swimmer anymore? So I kind of feel like now that I'm able to do three sports at a time, including my swimming, that just kind of stands a testament to me that I know what my identity is. When like even like you're going into college and like you're trying to enjoy college life, you're going out the whole time. I was always able to come back to swimming, trying to balance it then with college work as well. Like, there's always a run to do, there's always a cycle to do, there's always a swim to do as well. So yeah, like sport is a big thing to me, and kind of getting back now and kind of looking back and thinking I used to be a swimmer, and then looking when I used to do no sports. I didn't even do PE in secondary school because I just I didn't have the energy at all to where I am now. It is good. And in terms of then like nutrition as well, if you told me if I was in a coma and I woke up and I forgot everything and you told me, oh, you used to have an eating disorder, I'd be like, I absolutely do not believe you. For the way I live my life now, it's like absolutely not. Because it's funny though, because like I then identified I was anorexic, I was sick, I that was my identity then. So coming out of recovery, kind of thinking that's how I identify now. If I recover entirely and I lose that identity, who am I again? You know? But like I truly believe that I've completely disassociated from all of that now, and I can just live my life out and train and eat as much as I can, not a bother, it's a great revelation, really.
And you are still quite young in terms of endurance sports, because a lot of people, as you said, the sprint distances and all, it's the Olympic distances. They're all getting into that in their teens. Same as the swimming, high performance. Now that you're looking at a fantastic background in swimming, you're looking at what has already been a very successful 3 years of a triathlon career in the middle distance all the way up to the full distance is what you're going to try in 2 weeks. Do you feel like this is now your opportunity to kind of put a lot of this behind you and say, okay, this is my new future. What's happened has happened. This is my foundation. Let's see what identity I can build over the next 10 years.
That's it. Yeah. Like I am a triathlete now, that that's the next journey that I'm kind of taking on. I kind of found that the physical side was taken care of a lot of, but the mental side, not just in terms of eating, but like, a lot of it, like I was just depressed to say. I just didn't like life when I was going through all of those awful times. I always thought that was the way I would live my life, and kind of like, yeah, realizing now that like that was not normal. That wasn't a normal way to live your life, being just not knowing who you were, kind of just getting through instead of being determined and, having goals, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's definitely a completely different mindset.
And now that you're doing such long mileage, and we talk about the mental side of triathlon, and a lot of our guests have talked about it's just you, the road, the bike, the runs. How do you find that mental release now, knowing what you know, and having had some challenges in your past? And to be honest, good, bad, or different, and we appreciate your honesty in it. It's nice to talk about it, and thanks for sharing. Each one of these challenges we face adds in that element of resilience as well. So how do you find that works for you now with that mental challenge of a full Ironman and all those long training sessions on your own?
I've really enjoyed it, and I definitely think like all of the times in my life have kind of added up to this moment to really improve my resilience. I kind of like to think of it as though like I know I was this like tiny little 14-year-old girl, like kind of carrying the whole weight of the world, and if she can get through anything when she was literally on death's doorstep, like you know, an Ironman is nothing compared to that, you know. Kind of during my like long rides, long sessions, I just think of like my Strava captions. I love Strava. And, you know, if I just have a funny Strava caption, even if it takes the 5 or 6 hours to think of, that's a productive session. And, you know, I'll just put it together.
I can only imagine your Strava last August. And am I right in saying you did the Ironman Warsaw 70.3 and Cork in the same month?
I did Warsaw in June and I
Oh,
did
June, sorry.
Cork and the World Champs in Lachty in a week.
That's the one you did back to back. Sorry, I knew
Oh
you two them
my
back to back
God.
in a week that I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about.
So yeah, much to surprise my coach. So I qualified for Lachty in Warsaw and I'd always wanted to do Cork as well. Like God bless Cork. It was a great race, but unfortunate. But yeah, so I knew I was going to do Cork anyway. And when I did my first half in Marbella, I had a really bad bike crash, but like the marshals told me I was done for. I hit around about 10k into the cycle and I was like, no,
Oh,
I'm finishing this race, right? I came
Yeah.
out with the most awful black eye and I remember I'd finished the bike, whatever. I just about to finish the bike. I took off my visor and there was these lads cycling next to me and I was like, is my eye okay? And they were like, oh my God, are you okay? And I was like, all right, that's all I need to know. Put the visor back on anyway. Then I got into T2 and I saw my mom out there and she was like, I was like, okay, mom, I'm after having a fall. I'm fine, but I'm going to take my helmet off and just keep on cheering for me. So really funny race photos. I look like I was beaten up. It's like, I mean, when I was younger, I always was thought that if I had a black eye, that would kind of give me an edge. So be careful what you wish for. But I came second then in my age group and I didn't go to the World Champs that year, which was in Utah. Because I was like, look, you know, I really want to be able to win. I want to come first if I'm going to go to a World Champs. I was also going to America that year because I was going to work for Boeing. So I might get onto that in a while. But yeah,
oh,
so
careful what
when
you say. You could disappear.
Eric want to take over on that one.
So when I qualified then in Warsaw with I took an hour and a half off my original 70.3
Wow.
time. I did a 2.5 hour bike split. I was like, okay, I deserve to be in Lachty. And I think the girl behind me was 20 seconds behind me. So I was like, definitely. So I said, yeah, I'm definitely going to do Lachty. And of course I was going to do Cork because Cork's my home city and hometown. And it's such a great race going to the atmosphere. That was the first time I ever saw Ironman is when my old swimming coach, he did it in 2019. And he was always kind of like my big inspiration to start triathlon. So of course I was going to do Cork and then that got postponed then to the Sunday. And then Lachty then was on the Saturday, the week after. So I was like, look, we'll just knuckle down and we'll do both races and fly over at the same time. But I had a great time. And I was like, okay, if I can do 2 in a week, surely I can do 2 in a day, if you get me, if I can just
Yep.
Yeah.
so yeah, I just really enjoyed that. I kind of was like, yeah, look, we'll just get through it. And you know, Lachty was unbelievable, just so cool to kind of experience a world championship for the first time. And I'll be off to Taupo as well this December for this year's world championships as well. So it's all go.
I was in Lati in Finland with Rachel, who's been on the podcast. I wasn't aware of Mary O'Donnell, the Supremo, who was cruising her way around the course. How did you find, one, the scale of a world championship? I suppose when you look at your career, you wanted the Olympics, you wanted this. When you're representing Ireland at a world championships, which it is, and all the best athletes from the world are there. How did you find that? Did you get that sense of pride at the start line?
Absolutely. Part of me was kind of like, okay, we're just going to see how the body holds up, first of all. But what I really did like is the scale of female participation. So I've kind of found in triathlon, like particularly in my age group, there's so many women doing it, but it's my age group that is a big problem. Well, I wouldn't say problem, but there's just no one who races in the 20 to 24 year old age group. So when I went over and that there was at least 100 of us over there, that was a really nice thing to see, that there was some sort of cohort of young women, young girls actually doing triathlon, long distance triathlon, and competitively as well. I've kind of found like when I kind of started off and, you get the couple of age group wins, it's kind of like, am I only winning by default or am I actually good, which kind of like thinking like, why do I bother celebrating if it's like, oh, like I'm the only person here. So yeah, like it pulls in a small bit of imposter syndrome as well when you're kind of over there and you're thinking, did I only win this spot by default or do I deserve to be here? But that kind of dissipated as well. And you're kind of seeing the caliber as well. And you're like, okay, I won my spot here to be within this caliber. So surely I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And if you look at it in another perspective, you're getting race experience well before others have it figured out. So when, as I was saying, you're quite young in the career of long distance triathlon, and to get those race experience, all those years of miles, my advice is keep qualifying, even if it is an easier age category or less. It doesn't matter. You are getting race experience in the World Championships, and you've longevity in the sport. You've got at least another 10, 20 years left to see how you go over the next few. But
Yeah,
how did you find as a swimmer, the lake swim, although it looks so peaceful and calm, how was it in the lake?
I thought it was great. It was actually flat calm on the day as well. I love swimming in any sort of conditions, which I think did stand to me as well in Cork. Rough swim, but having that confidence as a swimmer, you kind of get through it. And yeah, I was a lifeguard as well. So, if you're going to put up a red flag, you're going to be swimming in choppy waves anyway. So there's always kind of like adding to that. Even if you're not a great swimmer, it's just the confidence in the water, whatever the conditions. If you're being bashed around by other people, it could be a flat calm lake, but you're still going to have a couple of hundred people around you. So, you have to be kind of used to everything.
You were talking a second about your age group and stuff and feeling like it's default, which is bananas to me. But is that part of the reason you're doing the full one in Sweden in a couple of weeks, or is that just a different challenge for you? Because to be that good at that level, to get qualified for World Championships, it's like, oh, well, I just stick with the 70.3 and keep at it. But you're taking on this, I don't want to say greater task, but definitely twice as long task, I suppose, in Sweden. What was the reasoning behind that?
I always felt like I'd do an Ironman at some stage. I just kind of like to do things and I like to make things difficult.
You're definitely made for
And
this podcast.
I just love a challenge. I literally like,
Mm.
yeah, if I telling people that I'm training for an Ironman, it just fills me with so much pride. But like I've been kind of known just to kind of guess that I can do things and just kind of do them. Like the first time I ran a half marathon, I had a dream, right? I had a dream that I ran one and I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I was like, oh my God, I have to run a half marathon because I had a dream. And I just went out and I ran a half marathon. I remember I said to my friend the day after that day I was going to work and I was like, oh, I think I want to run a sub 2 hour half marathon. He's like, no, you have to train so hard for that. You're never going to be able to do that. And I was like, I just did that this morning, so I don't know what you're talking about.
You got up at 4 o'clock in the morning just to run it.
Yeah, I just had to. I just had to.
See, Sean, I just dream of chicken and rice, and that's why I eat chicken and rice.
You
at
wake
6
up to
o'clock in the morning.
leftover chicken and rice from the night before. That's why you wake up to it.
So, in terms of coaching, obviously swimming is bread and butter. You could rhyme off a swimming set for the next 3 months for yourself, and it's probably something having been through many systems, through schools and universities. Running and cycling, obviously, you haven't got the 10,000 hours in those two sports. What kind of coaching or what kind of training are you doing to improve? And obviously, you are improving every time. You've taken hours off of finishing times. How is that improving for you?
So I'm being coached by New Meta at the moment. Pierce McShane is my coach and he's great. This year I kind of had a couple of plans in place that, first of all, I just wanted to race as much as possible because I realistically don't have that much race experience. Like this year alone, I've raced more than the last 3 years of my career and I've never done a full duathlon or triathlon national series. So I just wanted to do that to kind of travel around Ireland and just, get that race experience. I did my first and probably last duathlon season because I hate duathlon so much. I did a cyclocross season. I did a couple of races there, which was so much fun. I did a half and a full marathon this year as well. But the big emphasis was on the full Ironman, then, kind of tag on that training then to the half, which I feel like that does kind of benefit. But a lot of the training has just been getting used to long mileage on the bike and getting used to time on feet for the marathon. Not too much speed sessions. I do a speed session, like an easy run every single week, but a lot of it goes down to that long run. At the end of the week, just time on feet, and it all kind of seems to have come together really. Like I do my long mileage, don't have a lot of sharp, focused, short distance intervals, but like I have been doing pretty well in the sprint and Olympic distances so far. I feel like my running is as good as it can be for 5Ks and 10Ks if I'm still training for 42K, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Where was the marathon this year?
So I did the Limerick Marathon, the Great Limerick Run. It's so much fun. I've done the half a couple of times, and it's just such a good day out.
I'm very surprised you didn't say Cork. I was wondering why you were
So I did the Limerick one because I was just going into my exams, so I couldn't be traveling up and down that week, and like the run up to the marathon. It probably could have been better, but it was just so hectic. So I did, what did I do? I did the Kinsale duathlon. Then the week after I did triathlon varsities. Then I did Phoenix Park for the duathlon national champs. Took a week off. Then I submitted my last college assignment at 11 o'clock the night before the marathon, and then started my exams 2 days after that. So at least I got to sit down for a couple of weeks.
And at
do my
least
exams.
you passed at least you got through your degree. Isn't that
Yeah.
good, Sean?
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that's like.
So, a sidebar here, aeronautics in terms of cycling and aerodynamics in terms of cycling and stuff. What kind of crazy engineering things are you doing to give yourself the extra edge in these races, or what kind of theories are you looking at?
That's all classified, so unfortunately I cannot talk about that. Yeah.
Don't imagine 3,000 are listening. What are you really doing?
So if you've seen the bike, it's the first one in Ireland, which is quite cool. And I'm the first next gen athlete as well, as part of their like athlete program. It's a lot different. People say ugly, but I think it's endearing. I know, I love it. I love it. It's just the way it's built. And, you know, speaking to the engineering team and speaking to the lads behind the engineering team, they're all Formula One based. So is all kind of based on Formula One technology. And like the fact that they can kind of implement that onto bikes is quite cool. So it is kind of, yeah, it is the engineering behind it. I mean, like you can give anyone a good bike and that's fine. It'll probably make them that bit faster. But right now, I don't think I'm as strong or as fitted to the bike as I could be. Like I've only had it since June. So I feel like there is potential there, but it's just getting used to the new bike, the new position, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think in months, maybe a year to come, I'll be well fitted, used to the bike, even like used to getting on and off the bike, because I'm so afraid to scratch it. I'm so afraid that something's going to happen to it. I'm just kind of getting comfortable with it. But yeah, if when when we get to the engineering of the projects to come, like it's just so cool. It's so cool how far engineering has come and the difference it can make. So yeah, we have to keep an eye out.
Is it true? I'm just nosy here asking for a friend. How did you get picked for a bike like this?
So I did my thesis. I did my master's thesis on the aerodynamic optimization of bike fitting using computational fluid dynamics and design of experiments.
Can you say that again, but slower for Sean? He's a little bit lost. Sean, we
talk
will
as
get
if you're
you
talking
some
to an
nice-
8-year-old here,
we
please.
will- Sean, we'll get you some nice crayons, buddy. You just calm down there for a few minutes. Sorry, Mary, I just have to translate for our uneducated friend over here.
So it was basically using a software and like computational fluid dynamics. So it's kind of like this, yeah, the software to kind of visualize how airflow, for example, can move over objects. You can do a lot of other simulations on different softwares, but that was kind of the aim that I was trying to use Star CCM for. That was the software that we're using. And I was manipulating a mannequin on, I didn't actually have a bike frame. It was just kind of like the bike fitting process on how you can manipulate a mannequin or manipulate a person to make a bike position more aerodynamic. But it was interesting though, because you can get like such an aero position if you like assume, oh yeah, really flat back, really like close hip angle, close knee angle. But like if you physically can't do that, that's not going to be aerodynamic at all. So I actually fitted the mannequin then onto my own bike fit. And I was using a male mannequin. So I put the male mannequin onto my own bike and the most aero dimensions were actually outside the geometry of the bike as well. So I was like, that's really no use to me. There's not that many studies on female geometry on bikes, which was a really cool thing I think I found just from the literature. But other than that, really, really cool project. And yeah, Koo picked up on that. I posted on LinkedIn. I'm also a bit of a LinkedIn warrior as well as a Strava warrior. And then I got talking to the team, and at first they were kind of interested in the engineering side. And then I got kind of speaking to their kind of like athlete performance side, and they kind of realized that I hopefully do have a bit of potential in long distance triathlon, because they kind of specify in triathlon frames. So they're like, look, if you want to be part of this program, like, we'll support you. And at the start, again, it was kind of like, I've only been doing triathlon for 3 years. This is a really big step up. It's it's kind of a semi-pro program. Like, you're going to get paid, we're going to get paid for winning races. You're going to get paid a little bit to race. I was like, why am I being offered this? Like, I know there's people who can beat me. I'm still just an age grouper, but their kind of philosophy is to bring age group. What is it? They don't want to buy champions. They want to build champions. And them kind of having that belief in me, it kind of, first of all, I was kind of like, oh my God, please don't believe in me. I don't know if I can actually fulfill this belief. But it's really reassuring that they can kind of see that, because I've always kind of, you always kind of have those doubts, and you're always kind of like thinking like, oh, I don't know. I've never actually really had any my progression, my actual athletic. I've never had, I've never relied on it for a career. I've never been part of an elite squad. I've never been part of the Team Ireland or any sort of Team Ireland, either for swimming or triathlon. And for this company to say, look, we believe in you and we're going to give you this bike and we're going to support you in your races and we think you're going to do well. I'm like, ooh. But these opportunities, they don't come around a lot, and you might as well just take them as they come and just see what happens.
Well, not only are they putting a potential good, excellent Irish athlete on the bike, they're putting an engineer who understands aerodynamics and who can probably feed into the program as well, because it's one thing having the athlete, but when your athlete can talk about the science and give feedback on the science, they can build better products. So all in all, I think you're a pretty solid investment. I wouldn't have much imposter syndrome with this one. I think it's a sure thing, but it's absolutely amazing. And in terms of, obviously, you've got a very fragile bike. One of the things that scares most people with expensive bikes is the old transitioning from turbo trainer to the road. Do you have a particular setup for the turbo indoors? Do you put this spaceship on the turbo? Do you just keep it for the big days? What way does it work?
So it's summertime now. As much as it rains here, I will not stay inside. I hate the turbo so much. Oh my God. So I do have a road bike that stays on the turbo, but if as soon as it's maybe the start of February, out in the road. Absolutely. I can't hack it. I used to be quite good for it at the start, but if I get any chance, I would rather get pneumonia or risk maybe falling off my bike, which I have done already. I have aeroplaned, but I would just rather not be on the turbo. When I see people doing their 5-hour, 6-hour turbo sessions, absolutely not. No.
That's all he does.
I am a fair weather athlete and we do not have fair weather. Coming up to my Ironman, I did 6-hour cycle followed by an hour and a half run in the rain, and it was the most miserable hour and a half I've ever had.
No.
But it's I just didn't mind it. I didn't mind the turbo at all. And yeah, everyone says you're nuts, and 6 hours on the turbo, they say, was the equivalent of some other crazy number. But to
That's
me, it was
basically
just
12 hours. I think it's double.
Well, anyway, that just shows the stupidity that's on this side of the interview. But so obviously you're getting the sponsorship. It is a nice feeling to be recognized. And a lot of the people we have on here are fantastic athletes, and we're in a world full of really good athletes, and it's difficult to stand out. So those feelings, like you said, of having those Olympic aspirations and now being picked up by a team who want to see how far you can go, that has to be exciting though, is it?
Oh yeah, yeah. And in terms of sponsorship, I'm very lucky that I have the likes. I've Roca Sports, I've the Hub, I've Active Iron, all these kind of people again who are believing in me. And it was kind of funny when I kind of started off being kind of putting myself out there. I do love a good bit of social media. I like making reels, I like a bit of TikTok. I did the social media for UL as well. So I do kind of like making content. A lot of people kind of found it a bit strange, and I can kind of see that as well. I feel like I can be a bit I don't want to say a bit too much, but I can, I like to chat and like to put stuff out there, I like to post and all that kind of stuff. But like, I'm not gonna wait around for opportunities to find me. Like, I'm gonna make it easier for opportunities to find me, and if that has to be putting up some cringy social media stuff, like, this sport isn't as accessible as it probably should be. But if I can get gels, if I can get a nice suit, if I can get anything like that and make it a bit more accessible for myself, I don't see how that's a bad thing. And, I've gotten some great opportunities. I met some great people and got to work with great people as well and great brands. So it definitely does help. And it just makes it a bit more exciting,
It's something we felt, even for me with the podcast for a long time, myself and Sean, we still kind of go, oh, do we really release a podcast every week that people listen to? And I think it's probably an Irish thing. And I think that's where probably a lot of our athletes get left behind, because the Americans have no problem. They all champion each other and reels for days. They get picked up 100,000 followers here and that. And they're reaping the rewards. And I suppose having that attitude and the maturity, I suppose, to say, I can either forget about what people are thinking and take advantage of every opportunity I have. And then in 40 years, let's talk about what was right and what was wrong. I think you're in the right space. And I think it's one thing a lot of, particularly in the psyche of Ireland, it's kind of like when you see someone successful, it's like, I'm going to break their legs if they ever win that race again. Whereas in other countries, they see someone successful and they're like, I want to be like them. And, what are they doing? I want to follow them. I want to wear that suit. And that's what these companies see and know. And yeah, we're just the anomaly here in this country. But it's great that you have that maturity. And it's something we struggle. Sean is much better on the Instagram than I am. But it's great to see. And your content is excellent.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you just kind of have to stop really caring what other people think, Yeah, it is. It probably is that kind of like mindset, But like I remember when I was younger, like I went to an all-girls school and I loved Pokemon, I loved drawing, I loved swimming. When you're going into an all-girls school and a Catholic convent school in Ireland, small town Ireland, that doesn't really sit well with a lot of people. So I've definitely been a bit of an odd person kind of all my life. But you just have to roll with it.
You get used to it and own it, yeah.
Yeah, you do get so caught up, like, again, kind of going back to identity, being like, what do other people think of me? How am I expressing my own identity and all that kind of stuff? But like, you just have to forget that and just kind of realize in the nicest way possible that no one actually cares about your life. If you get me.
The only person who thinks so much about yourself is yourself. So it's a nice way. It's a scary but a nice way to look at it sometimes. Boeing, did you fix the doors in there? Was that you?
Oh, here we go. There's going to be a swimmer going missing in Sweden, Sean. There's a swimmer going missing in Sweden. Be careful.
That's the closest thing I have to an engineering question.
So yeah,
I'm going to say a few numbers and you say yes or no. 737.
I don't know what you're talking about.
787. 777. Sorry, yeah.
So I never thought that I'd do aeronautical engineering, which is kind of funny. It's again back to secondary school. I thought I really liked business. I really wanted to be like a CEO of like a big business company. But I did my work experience then in TY. I did a bit in food science. I thought I'd be a food scientist. So I was really enjoyed like the sciences and maths and all that kind of stuff. I did a bit in Collins Barracks. I went to the army. That was pretty cool.
Very good.
And then I did a bit in the UCC physics department and we were mapping out the movement of black holes. So that really piqued my interest into astrophysics and physics as well. So I chose physics, chemistry and applied maths for my leaving cert. And my school is twinned with the United Space School over in America, which has a like study work scholarship program where they work with NASA and students get selected if they do physics after an exam and interview and essay to go over and do that scholarship. So I received that scholarship back in 5th year. Went over to NASA, went over to Johnson Space Center, and I wanted to be an astronaut, of course. Who wouldn't want to be an astronaut after that? So then I was speaking to Nora Patton, our first Irish astronaut, which is brilliant. And she did aeronautical engineering. So she was like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I said, that's what I'm doing. And yeah, kind of enjoyed my couple of years then of aeronautical engineering. And then like UL is fantastic for job opportunities. And one of our co-op, our like work placements is with Boeing. So I I was supposed to do 9 months, but because of COVID, I actually didn't get to do like my official co-op with Boeing. But I went over the summer after that. I went over to Washington. I was working in Seattle and worked in their site for 3 months. And honestly, it was the best 3 months of my entire life. Oh my God. Not even just from like a work standpoint, but just like it was my first time away from home properly, like living over America all by myself. And I kind of picked up what it was like to be independent over there. It was just like, I just lived my own life over there. It was fantastic. And just like the Pacific Northwest is unbelievable as well. Yeah, then got working on some really cool projects. Like we weren't just interns, like we were actual, like our ideas actually mattered. So yeah, I was working with some really cool projects, working with the team. They kind of appreciated though that since we were from Ireland and this was such a big deal for us, like to come over to America from Ireland, that like they wanted us to enjoy American life as much as possible. But no, really enjoyed that. It was definitely a really big step up for an engineering career. And then that kind of like just got me interested, of course, in like planes, aerodynamics a bit more, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, then when I went on to triathlon, I kind of realized that I could kind of change my perspective and apply my aeronautical engineering knowledge to something that I really, really loved, which is triathlon. It was like, this is perfect.
So when we split a business, me, you, and Sean, making the most aerodynamic bikes in the world, is that something you can see yourself? Obviously, enjoy your career in it, but to try and be that CEO you wanted to be the scientist you are, the engineer you are, to take the experience in industry. I don't know what currently you're working at or will be working in, to because mostly it's an amateur sport unless you move into the professional sphere. Obviously, semi professional at the minute. But what do you see yourself looking at balancing sport, business, and science for the rest? Or I know it's quite difficult to say, but is that where your interests are leading you over the next 5, 6 years?
I'd hope so, but one thing about me is that the thought of having like a 9 to 5 office job sitting in front of a computer, I don't think I could do that. Like, I could not do that. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of job I can pick up if I'm not going to sit down in office for a 9 to 5. Like the moment now, while I'm kind of like getting settled in, I'm kind of like taking a break during the summer. I'm like teaching water safety down the beaches. I've also started like coaching with Triathlon Ireland, doing a couple of like outreach programs and like new to try, women to try, young girls and try programs. You know, I'm outdoors the whole time, which I absolutely adore. So for now, while I have the energy to be outside the whole time, you know, I'll see how that goes. But whatever the projects I'll be given with Coup, I'll absolutely take those on. And they do kind of appreciate that, you know, I want to train as well. And, you know, I'll ride their bike, I'll see if it works. If it doesn't work, you know, that's kind of my job now. Like I went out there, I was doing some aero testing. I went out for an hour and a half and I was like, this is work. This is fine. I'm cycling, but this is work.
That is class.
That is brilliant.
I
That
remember
is
I
so
went
good.
to friend brought me to the Stephen Bartlett talk in the convention centre in Dublin a couple months ago. And pretty much his main idea of the talk was try and find two different kind of jobs or sectors that somehow can combine that are unique. And there's not many people that are doing aeronautical engineering and triathlons and bikes and stuff like that. So that's definitely two unique things you've put together. And there's clearly something there now what you're doing. Like that's pretty cool.
I was very lucky because I picked my own thesis. I didn't want to do one of the like college administered projects.
Prescribed.
So I
Yeah.
didn't want to be working on wind turbines. So I was like, no, I'll do my own thing. And it was tough because it wasn't done before. Like a lot of the projects before me and like that were being done at the same time as me, you know, they were either follow-ons from previous projects or like they were very aeronautical specific projects. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do bikes. I remember I brought like my results to my supervisor and he was like, oh, like why is your coefficient of drag area? Why is it so high? And I was like, oh, well, like, you know, we're looking at bikes and humans. And he's like, oh, so we're not doing airfoils. And I was like, no, we're not doing airfoils because like CDA for human is like 0.3, 0.4, whereas like airfoils is like 0.00s, 0.0s, you know? So I was like, but no, definitely it was a good way to kind of tie up triathlon and aeronautical engineering and really put a spin and apply my knowledge to something that I loved. And I think they really did appreciate that when it came to like, you know, the presentations. I kind of saw that I was genuinely really passionate about this project. It wasn't just given to me. It was like, you know, I
They'll
really
tick the
enjoyed
box.
doing that
Yeah.
project. Yeah.
Just because I've been lost for a lot of this. Eric's the pilot and the engineering and the triathlete and the swim in the open seas. So like, I keep my feet on the ground. After Sweden, what's next?
So after Sweden, I will take 2 or 3 weeks off. I'm going to do the Pikeman, the Olympic distance national champs, and then I'll be going over to do Taupo. So I'll be staying over in New Zealand for the whole month of December. Which I'm really looking forward to. My original plan was to do Sweden, then 2 weeks after that, do Lost Sheep, and then qualify for Nice. But, I think you kind of have to, like, 80 years isn't long enough to live. I want to do as much as I can right now while I still have the knees to do it, and like the health and all that kind of stuff. And like kind of when I started getting into the sport, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to do as much as I can. Like I remember when I started running properly, every single easy run would be a 10K PB. I wanted to be the best every single time. So I've kind of toned down a small bit from that. And then kind of in the run up to the full and kind of like realizing the turnover, as well as last year in between doing like Cork and Lacti afterwards, I picked up a small bit of a knee. I wouldn't say injury, but I just kind of a bit of a naggle in my knee. So just for the longevity of the sport, I don't want that to happen again. I've been so lucky this season. I actually haven't been injured at all. So touch wood that nothing happens. So I was kind of thinking, okay, 2 fulls and a half and travel in the space of 5 weeks probably isn't going to be a good idea this time. So yeah, I'll do Sweden, I'll do Pikeman, because I'm actually going back over to Amsterdam to work with the lads when Lost Sheep is happening. And also it's not suited to me at all. I can't run or cycle up a hill. So flat courses are for me. So I
Lost
don't know
Sheep
why I want to even do
Sean,
Lost Sheep.
Sean saw how much I suffered on the Lost Sheep there last time. So
Yeah.
it's a great event.
Oh
Don't get
yeah,
me
I
wrong.
believe
It's
that,
absolutely
but
excellent.
I
Some of the
like my
toughest
flat
ones I've heard.
courses.
Yeah, it'll put manners on the best of athletes, and does. It's a phenomenally tough course. It's absolutely excellent.
You're
And New
going to talk
Zealand,
her
you
into
will.
it if you keep saying that.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
sold my
look.
entry. Entry's gone. Go
That's
back.
good,
No, she's
good,
doing the
good.
right thing.
Back to New Zealand, you're dead right.
Peaks and troughs, because the recovery is the most important part, and it actually gives you a chance to perform better in the next one. And I think you are doing the right thing, and you won't be alone. You do have Rachel Smith is a big advocate of the podcast. Brandon, her partner, is training and has been on as well. Will be in New Zealand with you, so you'll have company in terms of a fellow countrywoman on the start line. I know you'll be in the different age categories, but at the start line, so you will have company out there. There'll be people
Ah, yeah.
cheering you on. So I'll make sure that the cheer squad have your name and number as well, so that you have some company out in New Zealand as well. But it's very exciting. Do you want to put numbers on your Ironman? Have you a time in mind?
Part of me kind of wants to think, okay, we'll just get through it. But I would be happy with, I'm kind of thinking if my numbers are right and, what I know I'm capable of doing, I'll hopefully come out with 10 hours. So I know I can do, I think my 4K swim is about 57 minutes. So I know I could be okay in a swim. The bike, I'm kind of like, I did 170 yesterday in 6 hours. So I'm kind of feeling like with a good taper now, I'll be able to put a couple more numbers on that. And then for the run, I like my PB for a marathon is 3:28, but that's a flat marathon. It's not
Yeah.
after a bike ride. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping that it'll be under the 4 hours anyway. The bike will be about 5-6 hours. And if the run is under an hour, like kind of speed up my transitions a little bit. I'm hoping a good, 10 and a half, just under 11, hopefully. But
So as long the thing I did was, now I was a little bit over. I wanted 13. I was a little bit over. Yeah, but I only trained for 16 weeks, and it was a disaster. But I was very much survival mode. But for you, you've got a phenomenal base, and it is your first one at that distance as well. And a lot of people say just survive it. And I suppose if you're looking at your watch, as long as the clock says 10:59 by the time you cross, I think for your first one, that is a phenomenal time. It doesn't matter about anything under the 12 is a phenomenal time, let alone under 11 hours. So you're in a great place. You've stuck to the training. You're injury free. You're tapering now. You're gonna make the trip out to Sweden. So we are excited to see what happens. It's been absolutely lovely having you on. We probably could have had you on for another hour, as is with every guest. We front row seats, and I think just following your career, me and Sean could probably get another 8 to 10 years out of this podcast. So we're in a good place as well. But it's been great having you on. We're very aware it's late on a Sunday and we're taking up more of your free time. But thanks so much for coming on. It's been great to get to know you. Hopefully we might hear from you early in the new year after or maybe in the lead up to your World Championships in New Zealand. But it's great to have you on. We'll keep tabs on your Instagram, and for those who are interested in all your great reels, we'll make sure that they're in the show notes.
No, thanks so much. It's definitely been such an honor, and I've never imagined that I'd ever be on a podcast, so thanks for that.
On a podcast with us, it's NASA. Yeah,
I know which one I'd pick, Sean. I know which one I'd pick.
And on that bombshell, thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. From myself, Mary, and Eric. Take care.